Hi, welcome everybody. We're here for another short video. This time it's a 100 no limit cash game, meaning the blinds are 50 cents and a dollar. It's a eight-handed cash game where the hand in question involves seat 3 and seat 9. Seat 3 starts with 41 bigs, has a very high voluntary pots in play between 50 and 70%, depending on how many people are seated. Only 6% pre-flop raise, which means that he limps almost all of his hands, even strong ones, except for the top 6%. And three bets very, very seldomly at 2%. Myself, Manus, I'm here on seat 9 in the small blind. I start with $86, so we're both fairly short. I have probably the lowest VPIP on the table, ranging between 25 to 34%, again, depending on number of players. So here, 10 towards more the 25% range. I open raise almost every hand that I come in with, and I 3-bet about 6%. All right, so let's follow the action on share my pair. So it comes around to us in the small blind with king of diamonds, 9 of diamonds. Villain limps, seat 4 raises to 3, seats 5 and 6 call. I would normally view this as either a raise or fold situation. However, on this specific table, I'm very unlikely to be 3-bet by seats 8 and 9 and the villain. And so I'm most likely to go to a flop with a hand that will get good visibility on it. Sure enough, the other seats call. Villain calls as well. We go to the flop with $21, so really a low stack to pot ratio compared to some of the players. Flop comes out 4 of diamonds, 4 of hearts, 3 of diamonds, giving us flush drawn over cards. I'm going to check this every time and look to check raise some of the players. Sure enough, villain leads in for half pot, leaving only $27 behind. And when he takes this action, what do we range him on? So if we look at, if we switch for a moment to Equilab and have a look at his range, we'll do that. Right, so if we look at villain's range, these are the hands that he would have raised pre-flop. That's the 6% that I mentioned. So we're going to actually remove them from his range, assuming that he's 50% limp calling, which is, as wild as it sounds, that's a conservative estimate for this player. And so these are his limp call hands. However, where he would likely go to the turn shove with that specific flop is in the subset of hands that have a diamond in them. And so I would expect him to do this with all of the ace-x hands with the diamond and the ace, and with a lot of suited hands that are diamond suited. Obviously, you'd also do this with any hand with 4 in it and with his over pairs. And so that's kind of the range I'm going to put him on. All right, so given his range on the flop where he leads it, and I had ranged him as just shown, my equity is at approximately 48%. And so I'm going to likely want to continue in this hand. Given the equities that we just looked at, it's fairly clear that I'm going to want to continue with this hand. And it comes back to me. And for some reason, I decided to raise it with not an all-in sizing. And this was a technical error. Actually, I have a setting of 2.5 raise X, which I use a lot in these spots. And had I taken a closer look at what he was playing back, I would have just raised it all in at this point. But I have the overcards and the flush draw. He could be there with a fairly wide range, as we've seen. And so I raise it up, it gets back to him, and he shoves, I call, and the run out is 6 of hearts, ace of spades, and surprisingly he shows an ace of diamonds, jack of hearts, and so this fits the scenario that I sort of had plugged into Ecolab, that he'll go with an ace, but it surprised some of the players on the table to a certain extent. He wins the hand. Let's look at it from his perspective. So if we take it back to the point of the turn where, I'm sorry, the flop where it checks to him, and he bets the 1050 on the flop, and then I essentially put him all in. What should he range me with, and what should he be calling the all in with? So from his point of view, the range that he's going to be assigning to me here as a small blind, it should be narrower. I'm not going to show up with a lot of the unsuited hands, except perhaps raise 4 offsuit. Of the suited hands that he might think that I'm there with, I actually, in reality, have a narrower range than that, but he could reasonably assign me a lot of the diamond suits and obviously anything with a 4 in it. So given that range, what should he be doing on the flop when I essentially put him all in? Having assigned myself that range, let's evaluate it. And he's at approximately 38%. And so what he has to do on the when I sort of raise him and he goes all in, is he's investing 27 to win a total of 98. So you'd have to have 27%. He has 39 or 40%. So clearly his action is warranted. The question is whether his flop lead out of half pot into a field of 6 players which is essentially polarizing his hand, could easily run into monsters that just have him dead. Whether you consider that to be warranted, whether that's good or not, but that is typical of some of the hands that are played out in this club. So thanks for watching, and send me any remarks that you might have.